Yes, yes. Welcome to McKernan Live from Jupiter, Florida, following the Cardinals' 6-3 loss to the Marlins. Friends, come on in and participate in the fun and games. It's presented to you by Stratum Structural Systems, online at stratumrepair.com, and the Bedroom Store. I am right outside Roger Dean Stadium. Can you tell? Can you tell? I'm not on the grounds because I think that might be a whole thing if I am, so that's why you see a car going past. There you can see the stadium. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And I can communicate via chat as soon as my wife hands me her phone. And she's not going to do it. So I can't see all of the potpourri of insults that are coming into the chat. You can watch the Tim McKernan Show live from Jupiter, Florida, following a Cardinal game on Facebook Live, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And participate in the fun and games. Thank you, Anna Marie. Thank you so much. And participate in the fun and games. So the Cardinals lose this game 6-3. Kind of a weird spot because John Gant started the game. They allowed a run, but it was an unearned run as the Marlins didn't get any hits. And then Helsley came in, no hits, and everything's looking kind of good. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if we're going to see a combined no-hitter in spring training. It's not like the Marlins lineup is overpowering. And then the seventh inning rolled around and all hell broke loose. And I was really looking forward to, more so than anybody actually involved in the game, seeing Matthew Liberatore pitch. And he wound up giving up the first hit of the day, and then it just was a really poor outing. You never want to exaggerate small sample size theater at spring training, especially when somebody might be out there working on something, and that cuts both ways, offensively and with a pitcher who might be working on something, and then that means the hitter is taking advantage of a guy working on a pitch that he wouldn't necessarily be throwing if it were in the middle of the season, and then also a young guy getting his first chance in a major league spring training game. And Liberatore threw a breaking ball that froze. I can't remember what the guy's name was on the Marlins. I don't think most people in baseball know either. He was the one who wound up getting the first hit. And then for whatever reason, went with the exact same pitch on the very next pitch, and it was ripped down the first base line for the first hit, and then it just snowballed. I think he was getting squeezed a little bit by the home plate umpire, but it was rough. There's no way to really understate that. It wasn't great, and they wound up having to yank him. A couple of things that stood out to me with regard to the way that it played out is the fact that Justin Williams, who was in right field, just some odd choosing not to throw the ball home twice. And I realize this isn't a guy that the Cardinals are necessarily building things around, but for them to have some form of hope for him and see him not throw the ball home on two different occasions, that was rather strange. So we're happy to discuss Cardinals with you here on the Tim McKernan Live from Jupiter program, presented by Stratum Structural Systems, online at stratumrepair.com, and the Bedroom Store with their all-new Nautica mattress. Check them out, the Bedroom Store, making these broadcasts possible as well. So, with that all said, the Blues trade deadline comes and goes. Not necessarily surprising that nothing wound up taking place there. The city is Battle Hawks crazy, and Kobe Bryant's memorial service, all headlines here within the last 24 hours. And, of course, friend of the program, P. Reed, winning at WGC Mexico. All of those topics available for discussion. The High Iggy sign, perhaps the highlight of yesterday's Battlehawks game, and now clamoring for High Iggy t-shirts to be made by Gangster Pete. Let's take a look in the chat for the fun and games here on this thing. You can participate on Restream, is redirecting everything from YouTube, from Twitter, and on Facebook Live. So with regard to our interview this week, Paul Goldschmidt, he is our guest on the Tim McKernan Show podcast. You got a chance to maybe hear a little bit of frustration from him on his season last year. That's not necessarily the way he usually operates. He's very close to the vest, and you sense the frustration he had. Even though, as I was talking about with him, what was it, July or August, one or the other, he was the National League Player of the Month, but he thought he was awful last year. And while it wasn't a good Goldschmidt year, it wasn't like it was awful. But then you start off the season with him in the DH spot because he isn't feeling necessarily real healthy throwing the ball. Keep an eye on that. Another thing to keep an eye on, Sosa, who got a home run yesterday, and his defense. This is a guy that if you're looking for a sneaker play to make the roster here in the early going, this would be a value play right now with the Cardinals, as he's getting some playing time and might be a guy who could be competing for a spot and could potentially mean Munoz's spot on the big league roster is in jeopardy. With regard to Goldschmidt, he is up on the Tim McKernan Show podcast. The Cat has an interview with John Mozeliak on the Cat Chat podcast, and you can subscribe to all the podcasts, the Ryan Kelly Morning After, the Cat Chat podcast, and the Tim McKernan Show. They're all available for you whenever and wherever you want. Also interviewed Harrison Bader, whose focus, the phrase of the podcast, I would say, are on all the betas who criticize him. And as I said to him, I said, with the numbers last year, wasn't particularly overwhelming, hitting 205, and he said he wasn't consumed with what the betas on social media have to say. I don't think he's thinking of the Plowhawk, but when I was communicating with the Plowhawk before the radio show, I guess it was on Friday, I said, Bader, he said he's not interested in the betas on social media, so I could see that becoming a Plowhawk theme if and when Bader struggles. His first at bat yesterday, home run to left field. Of course, it was against a lefty, and it was a fastball, but Harrison Bader did hit a home run in his first at bat yesterday in Port St. Lucie against the Mets. Cardinals back in action tomorrow. They will be taking on the Nationals, and for those of you who monitor when they will see the Astros, that is coming up, and they'll see them a few times here over the course of the next month while they're in Jupiter, Florida, and the Astros and Nationals down at Palm Beach Gardens. Across the way, the Honda Classic is in town. That will get underway on Thursday, and we're talking about, it's maybe, I'll say 10 minutes from here, maybe not that much, from the Cardinals complex here in Jupiter, and I will be DraftKings nerding that up. Pretty good field in comparison to last year. No Tiger. They're still dealing with the schedule situation, but you will have Brooks Koepka, you will have Ricky Fowler, you will have Gary Woodland, Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, Louis Oosthuizen, and I feel like I'm missing somebody else because Fowler isn't in the top 20, and the price points will come out on DraftKings tomorrow morning, and I'm anxious to see who is the favorite to win this thing. I really liked P. Reed this weekend, not necessarily somebody I was pulling for, but there's something about that guy, whether I like him or don't like him, it doesn't really matter. Whenever somebody kind of says something about him and his latitude he takes with the rules, this happened a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I guess, approximately, with the Bahamas thing, and then he goes and people were chirping him about it, and then he nearly won when Justin Thomas won when they went to the playoff. And so I saw the thing with Peter Kostis this past week on the No Laying Up podcast, and I thought to myself, oh God, he's going to have another big week. And I looked at his odds going into Sunday, because I'm like, even though Justin Thomas is leading, P. Reed, when he gets chirped, he responds. And it was only paying plus 300, so I'm like, that's not really worth the odds. I had no idea until producer Joe was in one of his text arguments with Iggy this morning that P. Reed was plus 4,000 going into the WGC Mexico. And I'm saying sincerely, I mean, I realize nobody has access to my DraftKings teams. Nobody should, because they're horrible. But he was on all my DraftKings teams because I was thinking he's going to have a big week. Of course, the rest of my teams were awful, so it didn't matter. But if I would have known he was plus 4,000, dead serious, it tilts me because I would have at least put 50 on it. And I might have gone 100, and to see that was, I can't believe he was plus 4,000. I can't believe that. He is not in the field this week. All right, let me go to the chat while I've kind of rounded things up. Let's see. Tim, I hear a lot of people say Stan, I assume we're talking Stan Kroenke, does not care what fans around the world think of him. I find many successful people typically care about the legacy they leave behind, which includes what people think of them. Do you think Stan simply defines his legacy as building the most expensive stadium, or do you think he cares about the thoughts of fans in St. Louis with Arsenal and Denver matter? What say you? I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think the backstory that has not been told yet, and maybe it will. I actually did not think it would have. I think it would have been told by now had the St. Louis lawsuit not gotten as much as it's gotten as far as legs, and it continues to go on. I don't think anybody, including people on the St. Louis side, but certainly people at the Rams, thought this was going to continue as far as it's gotten. So, had it not, I believe, and this might be nuts, but I believe that that Kevin Demoff would have done an interview. I know you might think this is crazy, but I believe now with the litigation that takes that off the table, and would have told a little bit about their side of it. Now, people might not like their side of it, but I think part of their side of the story is they went to St. Louis, and St. Louis said, we don't believe you're going to move, so go ahead and move. And I think that took place a long time ago. I think by 2012, 2013, they knew what the plan was, but I'm talking about like 2010-ish, 2011-ish. So, with that said, I think once he realized he could be the god of Los Angeles, I think that was very appealing. And that's something Joe Buck said. When Joe Buck kind of went public with what was going on with this thing, he really wanted to be the god of Malibu. And at that point, I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares. I think some people do care. It is interesting. I think we would all agree that the antithesis of Stan Kroenke is Tom Stillman. I would tell you this, and I was in a conversation with somebody yesterday about this. Bill DeWitt, who we were doing the approval ratings over the off season, and this ridiculous approval rating that understandably the Blues had, and the like 40% the Cardinals had. And when I interviewed Bill DeWitt, and I'm talking about the chairman, and then also talked with his son, and these are both podcasts, and I'm probably going to talk with Bill DeWitt Jr., the chairman, while I'm down here for a podcast. And I asked him, and he was in studio, so it was a good, detailed conversation. I asked him about fans being unhappy with, a perception that they're not as aggressive in the free agent market as they could be. And it was just kind of a, well, that's the way, if you talk with my peers in ownership, they kind of all get the same thing, that fans want them to spend more money. And what stood out to me on that was not that he was dismissive of it, he understood it, but it was kind of taken with a grain of salt. In other words, it didn't really faze him. I think with Stan Kroenke, he does not care. I think what he does care about is the litigation they're dealing with, the fact that this move by him is exposing his peers in the NFL and pissing them off, and by that I mean exposing them to discovery. And I think what he cares about most is they estimated the stadium costing approximately $2 billion, and it's now at $5 billion. And also, I think the Chargers thing drives him up the wall. So I think the St. Louis anger is something that I just don't think he cares about. I know that might not be popular with some in St. Louis who really wanted to, I guess, shove it up his ass with the attendance at the XFL thing. I honestly don't think he cares. Now, I don't know that, so it doesn't mean that I'm right, but that's my opinion on whether or not he cares. I think for people like Bill DeWitt, I think for people like Tom Stillman, I think for a number of other owners in professional sports, they do care. I don't think he's one of those guys. I could be wrong. This isn't that I know this, but that's my opinion on this. Let me see what else we have going on here. The weather today is, I would say, around 80 degrees. It was a beautiful day. There wasn't much wind at the ballpark. There certainly was at the champion course at PGA National. Coming in out of the north, making that hole on 17, I mean, like a 200-yard carry in playing probably greater than that from those tees. That's just, so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I don't know if I could get it over the water, and there's not a bailout. You bail out, you hit it in the stands to the left, and if you bail out to the right, you're in the water. It's just, it's ridiculous. It's a brutal golf hole, and I'll tell you this, I think it's one of the reasons why outside of the schedule that they have struggled with the field, because a lot of guys just find the course just to be too brutal, and it's not really signature. So I think that's one of the reasons why they've had kind of repeat, or a lack of repeat winners on it. Once again, Bedroom Store and Stratum Structural Systems presenting our live from Jupiter. We are right across from Roger Dean Stadium. I think you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. I don't know how well you can see it, but you can see it. Cardinals losing today 6-3 to the Marlins. If I'm not mistaken, that makes them 1-1 on the spring training schedule. Tying yesterday, winning Saturday, losing today. John Gant looked good, Helsley looked good, and Matthew Liberatore did not look good. Justin Williams, as far as defensively, just was confusing. I don't know what he was doing. He wasn't throwing the ball in when he had a chance to throw runners out 2 different times. It was very odd. And so far, if we want to focus on who's flashing with contact, I thought Nolan Gorman in a big way on Saturday. Carlson as well. Matt Carpenter with a couple of hits, but he's in the box score. In fairness, one was a nice shot to the opposite field. Interesting to see him go on opposite field. The other one was a flare that just dropped in left center. And Tommy Edman today, and even on Saturday when he was making outs, just hits the ball hard. I just don't know how he's not in the starting lineup. I have no idea how that's the case. I assume he will be. I still don't really know what's going on in the back of my mind. I think there's a possibility there's still something going on that we don't know. With that all said, we will see as the Cardinals take on the Nationals tomorrow here in Palm Beach County. All right, the Bedroom Store has this Nautica mattress, a mattress that makes a difference. And not being at home and not sleeping on my mattress that makes it so much comfortable. You need a proper mattress. The Bedroom Store has it now with their Nautica mattress. The Bedroom Store, check them out. They are making it possible for us to be down here and doing our live for spring training, along with Stratum Structural Systems, online at stratumrepair.com. stratumrepair.com. They fixed my basement last year when it was flooding a second time. stratumrepair.com. Any update on Bowtie dodging me? I did run into John Nazalek this weekend. I don't necessarily think he's dodging me. Ooh. Was that Anna Marie? Can you identify? No, that's not. There's a sound to certain cars heading this way, and I was thinking, because I see the Plowhawk is watching, and I thought that might have been Bader, because his car does have that sound. I think I will have a conversation with John Nazalek. I don't think. There it is. You can still hear it, but that was not Harrison. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I think we'll have if we don't have a conversation, I would be surprised. I'm not taking it personally at this point. Either way, he did a conversation with a cat. You can hear it. It's up on the cat chat. Dotem asking, does Roger Dean sell helmet nachos? Anna Marie, have you seen helmet nachos sold at Roger Dean Stadium? We've already been to 2 games of the 3. Have you seen them?
Yeah, I got them in this hat and then I rinsed it out.
Smart-ass answer. Don't appreciate it. Smart-ass answer. I'm using her phone to communicate in the chat here on the broadcast. I don't think they sell helmet nachos, and I don't know if that makes people less likely to want to come down here and enjoy the fun and game. But I haven't seen helmet nachos here. Also, fun fact for No and Tell, Tommy Edman coming up, Harrison Bader coming up, Paul Goldschmidt this week, Jack Flaherty last week. If you missed it, always questions from the audience. Welcome. T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com is how you can pose your queries. And not necessarily St. Louis sports related, but I got caught up in this, and I'm looking forward to actually going back and watching it. But the Kobe Bryant memorial service this morning/afternoon, Michael Jordan's speech, so cognizant of the meme that makes its way around social media, and then he wound up getting emotional yet again, and he said, "I'm not going to cry because I don't want to see myself as a meme," and yet once again, Michael Jordan breaks down. But how about Kobe Bryant's wife? Speaking and maintaining her composure throughout that whole thing. That's just amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm as much as one can look forward to watching. I'm looking forward to watching just because of the tributes. I know that that's something that's a weird situation when people are in that spot speaking emotionally about somebody that they admire, or in the case of his wife, talking about her husband and his daughter, but so admirable. And and I knew that there was a connection with Derek Jeter and Kobe Bryant, and Jeter was in the suite, a few suites down from the broadcast booth today, with, if I'm not mistaken, with his wife, if I'm not mistaken. Can you confirm that? And their kids. They have a child who is like the same month, I believe, as our son was born. Was Fowler in the lineup today? If so, how did he do? We did not get to the game until the fourth inning, so I don't know. I can pull it up, but since my other phone, I'm on the Ray King phone plan. Here's this phone, and I guess there it is. And I guess I turned it off, so I went to like be able to pull up all my stuff, and I turned my phone off. That phone I just showed, so I don't have the stats, but I'm virtually certain he was in the lineup. Do you plan on going over to the Astros Nationals camp? Yes. It's a beautiful facility, by the way. It's only a couple years old, and it's a beautiful facility. This was in '98, the one behind me where the Cardinals play, and it was initially the Cardinals and the Expos, which means it was the Cardinals and the Nationals, and then the Marlins came in here, and I don't know where they went initially. The Nationals, I don't know where they were before they moved down here with the Astros. Might have been up north. But for those of you who do come down to spring training, it's at the most 15 minutes away from here. So you can see the Nationals and the Astros and the circus that is I'm anxious to watch the Astros play. It's just, I mean, what an absolute cluster. And I just don't think it's going away anytime soon. I mean, everybody in baseball is just banty about this thing. So I just don't know how it's going to go away. And they're like avoiding playing their guys. I think they were on the road today in Lakeland, which is where the Tigers are, if I'm not mistaken. But when they're back here in the Palm Beach region, it's a mess. And I think that's going to be the way anytime the Astros play in the regular season this year. It's just not going away, and it's not going to go away, and I don't know what's going to make it go away, actually. Let me see, anything else before I say farewell? All this is brought to you by Stratum Structural Systems, online at stratumrepair.com, and the Bedroom Store. We thank them for their support, for making it possible. I'll be doing these things throughout spring training. We are right across the street from Roger Dean Stadium. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, subscribe to all of our channels, the Inside STL channel on YouTube, and T. McKernan on Twitter, and the Tim McKernan Show on Facebook, and then also the fan page on Facebook, the TMA fan page. We are coming to you live from Jupiter, Florida. It's presented by Stratum Structural Systems, online at stratumrepair.com, and the Bedroom Store. Check out their all-new Nautica mattress. I'm Tim McKernan. I will talk with you again tomorrow on the Ryan Kelly Morning After on 590 The Fan KFNS and Inside STL.